TV Razor. The thing is, he's 2600 and I'm 1960 on chess. But it was a really fighting game, and there's a lot of ups and downs, and I like to call this my best game until now. So of course we start off with the Sicilian defense, and he goes for the main line. Again, this is all just theory which I've studied. There's only one move here, something like knight c3 in this move, and which is just in the game. And then here there are several different move options. I could go for the classical Sicilian and invite the Victor Rauser attack, but then I didn't study about it that much. I could also go for the knight off and invite the main line with a bishop coming out to g5, which also I have studied quite in depth, and my analysis goes around like another 10 moves or so. So there's a poison pawn variation of like queen d6, and then there's a Kortenberg variation after let's say bishop e7, I mean like e6, bishop e7, that kind of line after f4, queen f3. There are so many options. You could remain flexible and play bishop d7, and so on. But I chose the line which I've been playing a lot right now, which is the Sicilian Dragon. So he goes for bishop e3, and I anticipated that he's going to go for some kind of a mainline Sicilian dragon, which mainly goes after bishop g7, f3, knight c6, queen d2, castles bishop c4, and something like bishop d7, castles queen side, and so rook c8. So we have rook c8 and bishop b3. These are all like the standard moves in the Sicilian Dragon, but he opted to go for the early queen d2. So he went for an early f3, and then after I castle he went queen d2. The major point is that the bishop is not on c5, so this is some sort of a Rauser attack. So after there and g4. So here I thought for a while, and I thought about taking the taking the knight on d4. But I kind of went against that. I decided to play much more principle in the Sicilian. So in the Sicilian Dragon, you usually put your knight on e5, and where it can pressure everything else. But first I decided to develop my bishop, because yeah. Again, some of these moves the computer might say that it's a blunder or an inaccuracy, but yeah, the game's what it is. We can't all play like computers. So he played h4, and this I thought was really problematic, because what he's trying to go for is h5, of course, and if I do play h5, he's going to open up the g file. So h5, and pawn takes, knight takes, and then he has open semi-open g5, where there might be some attacking possibilities after bishop c4 pinning the pawn to the king, and then rook g1, putting more pressure on the g6 pawn. There's also this idea of trading the bishop on e3, the bishop on g7. So yeah, so knight e5 was my counter attack. So he just castled, and again, my position is extremely it's not completely losing as a threat, because the game is quite complex. Of course, the engine sees for everything, but uh, it's really uncomfortable to play. So I chose rook c8, and a very typical sacrifice in the Sicilian defense, you include rook takes c3. And there are lines when white plays bishop a6, the queen cannot capture and the pawn has to capture, inducing another move. So for example, let's say that white just goes for the bishop trade. So there are some ideas of rook takes, and the pawn cannot recapture. I mean, like the queen cannot recapture because the bishop will be hanging. I mean, in this case it doesn't work because my bishop's, I mean, like white can take my bishop, but in some cases it is a possibility and it's a very dangerous weapon. So I played rook c8 down there, and he played h5, which I thought was, again, it's really uncomfortable for me to play, but I just went through with it. Again, knight c4, even though it's a mistake right now, I didn't realize that. Basically, in the Sicilian, you're supposed to put your rook on c4. So what I'm trying to do is I'm going to try to trade the knight for the bishop, get the bishop pair, and then get an active rook on c4, where it can possibly sacrifice on c3 in the future. And that's exactly what happened. And he played this move bishop. Yeah. So this is when I thought for a really long time. Of course, the engine shows rook captures on rook captures knight, which is possible. The point being, after queen captures, then you take the bishop. I decided to go for the just a straightforward winning the pawn, but the engine doesn't like it because of queen e3. And I don't think anyone. I don't think my opponent would find it. It's a really complicated move because it's not a forcing move. It's a very quiet move. You're going to sidestep everything, and then you're just going to attack my position. And I think there is no defense to the onslaught which is happening on the king side, even though the material might be equal. Okay, so he captures with the pawn, and now the whole point is rook takes knight. And even though the square is defended twice, unfortunately the queen is the one who is leading the defense. So if queen takes, then I can just take with my bishop, and then I'm significantly better because I have a queen. So he decided to just move the queen out of the way, and decided to trade rooks. So again, I could have done this slightly better. And then of course the engine gives queen b6. I did look at queen b6, and I thought after bishop takes g7, king takes g7, queen takes rook, queen takes queen. Let me just show it out. Queen b6, bishop takes, and after king takes and queen here, queen takes and rook here. Yeah, so this position is of course completely winning for white, and this is the reason I didn't go for it. But of course the engine thinks otherwise. He just says to trade the rook, which I didn't see it. Anyway, so I played rook takes d1. I was anticipating both moves, knight takes d1 and then rook takes d1. He played the best move. So now I don't know what to do. I just played queen b6, and he avoided the trade because when you're down in material, you don't want to trade your most active piece. Right now he's just a pawn down, and the engine shows that it's like slightly better for me, but okay. So that was the idea. Now I actually decided to go for a really risky move, taking the pawn. So the reason this is risky is because everything is just going to get opened, and I really do not think. Um, I mean, at this point, White is completely winning because of the so much of pressure on the king's side. But he actually took my bishop, which was kind of surprising. And then after the king takes, pawn takes, I played this move h5. So the point is, if I do something like h takes g6, then it's just game over after queen coming in. And then here there's going to be a checkmate in one if I go to g8, and then I'm just going to lose my rook if I go to f6. And of course the engine is showing plus 7.3 because of the same reason. So I did not play that move. I thought of this move, but it runs into the same issue. So because both of them are not good, I actually decided to protect my bishop. Now my bishop and pawn act like a shield to the king. Yeah, so now he decides to actually go for my bishop. And then here I think I played a really good move of winning another pawn, I think. Bishop f3. The whole point is after rook h3, I can take the pawn on g6 and my rook defends the bishop. But he did not go for that. He went for queen c3 check. And then I, of course, this is right now a fork of the bishop and my king. So he can take my bishop, and that's what he was counting on. So he just gave it up with the tactical idea of f takes g6. And now the knight on f2 is under attack twice. And after the queen moves anywhere, I can just take the knight. So I'm really not losing a piece here. So queen h3, I took with the rook. I was not actually afraid of queen d2. Sorry, queen d7. So after queen d7, I was just going to play king g6. Sorry, king h6. And my argument here is that even though everything looks extremely scary on the king side, there is not enough firepower to actually checkmate me on that side of the board. And if you give me any more time, I'm just going to consolidate and I'm just going to attack the weak c2 pawn. So that was my idea behind queen d7. So I played queen c6. Now queen d7 is not possible. Now I'm attacking the c2 pawn, and he defends it with the queen. Now I just bring my rook back, and rook e1, because I was attacking the pawn. g5, and here's where the advantage is like extremely high, because even though I'm up 2 pawns, those 2 pawns are passed connected and protected by each other, or they're actually called as protected passed pawns, and they're extremely strong in the end game. So if there's any queen trade of any sort, let's say white were to just like trade queens absent-mindedly, this would be completely winning because of the power of the passed pawns which are connected. So basically I can move one of my pawns, and in a staggered position they protect, one pawn protects the other, and with my rook and my king I'm going to protect the other pawn, and I'm going to slowly start pushing the pawn. So that was the idea. So anyway, queen e2. That's the reason he didn't. He's trying to go for some counterplay on the king side. Just king h6. So here I was looking at queen takes pawn, pawn e4, but I noticed that once the queen captures on h5, it's almost like it's either a perpetual or a draw in which case I really didn't want both of them, and I was really low on time here as well. So I did push a pawn. In normal circumstances, the pawn on h5 is pinned to the king. So queen takes pawn is not possible only because of the rook on f4. So rook e1. Now he's defending. He's trying to defend everything, and now I just push my pawn. And the computer gives -8 as the advantage, which means I'm almost up a queen, which is totally insane because I'm just up 2 pawns. And after he played that, so I mean this position is completely winning for black. I can do so many things and just keep putting the pressure on. Right now, the engine is suggesting that I go after the c2 pawn, but I decided to bring my king closer. And here's where I made my greatest mistake of the entire game. So this mistake just threw it away on the spot. I blocked with my rook. So my thought process here was, okay, fine, so there must be somewhere for the queen to defend the rook. And once he played the move, I realized that it's not possible at all. Then I started to look at different moves right now. I started to look at queen takes e5. But I mean, you just take the queen with check. But if the king were not on that square, let's say here, and then so somehow with the king out of the way, then it would have been much more threatening, because after that I had the tactical idea of rook takes rook, but then I realized it's check, but still decided to go for it anyway because I don't have anything better, and now it's completely winning for white. So anyway, so after I played h3 because I might as well push the pawns, but he does find the checkmate. You can do anything here. I'm just doing checkmate, and it's just game over. This is one of the games which I really liked, which I played, even though I lost. It was a really silly mistake that I lost, but I've learned a lot from this game, especially from these moves. Knight takes e4. So I've learned that even though moves like that are possible, you should always consider something much more concrete. Yeah, so that's it. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again soon.